Welcome to MOATCRAFT, where we don't just make choices on what to build, we actually make choices that matter. Today, we're diving into how to think about building an AI agent. It's a really hot topic right now. And we're going to talk about not just the how, but actually what's more important. Why now? For whom? And most importantly, walk you through how to find your moat before you even start coding. Okay? Because, spinning up an LLM project is fairly easy, but making it defensible, that takes strategy. So before you go ahead and ship another chatbot MVP, let's talk leverage, let's talk moats, and ultimately how to make smarter bets from the beginning. And then if this session sparks something for you, give it a like and share it with someone who codes, because all the engineers deserve to learn this. And MOATCRAFT is all about helping software engineers like you make smarter, sharper, and more strategic moves, leveraging the skills that they have. And subscribe to the notifications about the new videos to stay ahead, because the market's moving fast and you've got what it takes to outsmart it if you leverage it strategically. So we have here today with us Raheel, and I'm really excited for this session. And thank you, Raheel, for joining and discussing this in public and giving others the opportunity to learn from our discussions as well. So Raheel, would you like to give a quick intro, who you are, what you're doing, what you're up to, and then we'll take it from there.
Sure. Thank you, Anna, for having me and inviting me for this session. My name is Raheel Zubairi. I have been a CEO for a software company in Malaysia for the last 10 years. And I have transitioned to developing products for various industries since last year. So I'm exploring in a phase where I want to do some innovative products. And that's what led me to validate and have discussions with Oana for validating through her framework whether how well I've structured my thoughts on approaching it. And that's where we connected.
Awesome. Well, welcome. This is it. Now we're going to have that conversation. Do you want to tell me a little bit about kind of what you have in your mind and what are you hoping to get out of this session that will hopefully help you?
Yep. So, been being in business for software services, I basically go through this problem statement, which I have in mind of solving by automation. Is that every software project starts with a user requirement study. That's where our business analysts will step in, talk to the stakeholders and customers, go through a tedious cycle where usually for us, 20% of the initial payment for a project is tied up with user requirement study, document sign off. That's where your URS, your FSDs, and everything is tied up. And that's where I see the majority of the delays that happen in a project. So my idea it was if I can solve this problem for myself, I would be solving for other companies who are doing software engineering, either as a vendor or internal products for a company or an enterprise. So I came up with the idea to automate that process using voice agents, where pretty much an AI should replace the human. And that's where I, rather than having too far a stretch into development, I wanted to validate this idea first and talk to various stakeholders who are doing similar process, whether they will be able to adopt something similar and how they want us to solve that problem. Because even business analyst documentation could be very, very wide. So I want to pick and choose the features that people will really use, and it should follow a structured approach. And that's where I want to have a discussion with various people who have product management and product development background to really understand whether my approach is correct and whether I'm solving their problem correctly.
Well, I could definitely tell you that you're doing the right thing, trying to basically break your idea and your thought and find the weaknesses before you put any more effort into it. So that is amazing, and it's great to have you here. And how about we get started then?
Sure.
Okay, I'm going to share my screen. I just started a Google Doc, And I'm going to take notes as we go through this analysis, okay? And we are a startup, so this is not part of a large company, right? Okay. So let's start with the what I like to call the strategic context. What's around you? What's happening in the market? What could be headwinds? What could be tailwinds? Tell me a little bit about this. What have you been thinking of?
Yeah, so I've seen a huge influx of AI based startups coming in, automating a bunch of stuff, especially with no code platforms where people are just giving requirements to these AI based no code platforms and they will just generate a whole system out of it. But being in software services, mostly we are serving enterprises, not one person knowing everything, right? So what I see as a problem is that the requirements don't come from one person; it comes from various stakeholders in a company, and the company only signs off on agreeing on payments to a vendor if they know what is supposed to be developed. So usually in every organization, there's a person called project sponsor. He's the guy who runs against getting requirements from every single department and then consolidate that to be developed by a third party, for example, or internal team. That project sponsor is the person who's my actual customer. I want to sell the system to make his life easier using having an AI assistant, or you can see another business analyst inside the organization who runs around different stakeholders and gets the answers for them. So my idea was if people are automating so many things, this actually requires a voice-based interface. So I really push towards a humanized voice agent rather than just an AI agent. Because if a person
Okay,
has to type, yeah,
I'm going to ask you to pause here because I want what I want you to do is remove yourself from the solution and the things that you thought about so far. So let's start this fresh because I've done this with multiple people before, and oftentimes you will find angles and directions that you haven't thought about before. But if you stick to what you have, then you're not going to find them.
right, understand.
So let's just talk about the market. So I'm not even going to put this in the document for now. It's a question, and I will actually debate whether that is the customer or not, whether that is the buyer or not. So we're going to have that discussion at the right point, but let's go through the steps. First of all, let's just look at the general market. So there's a huge growth of AI-based assistants. Um, like, I don't know, software companies, what are they doing in this space? Are they, I don't know, they're letting go of people, they're replacing them with agents, they are, what is it that is relevant in this space that the companies that you're targeting do?
So I would say compared to last year, I think the big change which happened was the LLMs have reasoning now. That's a huge difference versus just spitting out content. Now they can reason. So uh, the reasoning capability has brought in another perspective where the reasoning actually comes up with a more structured approach on documenting requirements.
Okay.
Yeah, so I believe that's the game changer. And the third one is there's a bunch of tools which actually help you transcribe your documentation and make the documentation faster. But it is again designed for the person to have physical meetings and just record what they're looking for. So it still requires a full-time human interaction. And obviously, it doesn't reason properly. So there's no reason implementation.
All right. Okay. So this is what happens in the market now. And have you seen anything that these companies that might be your customers at some point, have you seen anything that they're doing that could be uniquely interesting for you? Any trends that, like, in the actions that they're taking?
So a lot of times, the pain point of the delays of documentation falls back to the vendor who's serving them because they're the ones who have the business analysts on salary, right? So the vendors actually don't care if there are delays. And what we are really trying to focus on is the pain or the delays which are caused by
So
these documentation and
every
follow up.
every time you go back to what you're trying to focus on and what you've done so far, I'm going to stop you because we need to remove that and let's start a fresh discussion to try to discover potentially new angles. So this is why we're here. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So going back to my question, have you noticed anything in in the recent moves of these kind of software companies that have this type of problem? I don't know. Are they hiring? Are they firing? Are they buying more SaaS software? Are they what kind of things tend they have they been doing recently? Is there anything that starts out?
I think it's a adoption of LLM driven solutions to document faster, pretty much. But still, the industry is very much driven by human interaction.
So they are buying LLM solution.
Yeah,
Okay.
for faster
Actually,
documentation.
actually, I heard I was in an event last night, and someone was saying that there are companies who, if you don't use AIs and LLMs, they don't sign a contract with you just because of that. And I don't, I don't see how that is a good criterion to make a choice, but I can imagine that some companies will be like this. Hey, if you don't use AI, we're not interested. So there's definitely a great demand for this AI stuff, right? Okay. And what about the strengths? What kind of strengths do you think you have unique that are unique to you as a person, as a professional, since you are trying to build this business? Or maybe you have partners or like you have a team about this, you and your little group. What do you think is especially particularly unique that is a strength that nobody else has in this world?
I wouldn't say unique, but I think we might have the first mover advantage because being AI and early tools available in the market, it has brought a lot of startups on the same level feet as maybe 5-year-old companies. So if you go to, for example, any modern competitive sites where
Okay.
you see the revenue of those companies like Lovable, they're already in top tier, high revenue companies compared to a company which was 5 years old. So, uh, absolute quick adoption actually brings you to the table with the big players. That's what we
Okay.
want to do. Yeah.
So
So,
you're planning to you're thinking about kind of riding the wave with
yeah.
others who are riding this wave in a way
And
and
obviously,
growing
we
through
have,
that.
yeah, plus we observe that a lot of enterprise solutions are very similar, right?
Okay.
Because they have a pattern, like you have the same user authentication, access controls, you have the similar type of dashboards, which AI can regenerate using requirements, which are structured. Same forms,
Okay.
workflows, validations, email, search.
Okay.
So, so we are not trying to come up with a solution where an analyst can understand how to do a game development. It's purely enterprise. So because we have so many customers with a
Okay.
similar pattern of development,
So
we think we can replicate that. Yeah.
let's stop thinking about the solution. Let's stop thinking about what you've done so far. So your unique strengths. So it's not about the uniqueness of them, it's about the moment, the
Yes.
first mover advantage that you're trying to leverage in this case.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So let's look at the market. Let's look at who would be your potential stakeholders in this market. Who could you be addressing to enter this market? You could be addressing, I don't know, you said that your customers would be project sponsors in
Enterprises.
enterprises.
The other one would be any software development companies. We're serving any enterprise vendors.
Okay.
And and the third one would be internal product development teams inside enterprises.
That's to enterprises.
No, sometimes we are the product team for the enterprise. They don't have their own team. There are companies who have a proper product team inside them. Well, I can give you an
But but
example.
but then you would still be targeting enterprises. Maybe they have a different operating
Yeah,
model, or they, I don't know, integrate your service in a different way, but you'd still be
yeah.
targeting enterprises, right?
But I can give you an example. For example, there is a company called Petronas Digital, which is a software company, but selling to only their mother company. Yeah,
Okay, fair enough.
yeah,
So you can be like, okay, maybe one big company would be using this service for
yeah,
everything that they do, but it's still one enterprise.
yeah,
It's kind of like
kind
a,
of.
yeah. So
Yeah.
let's stick to enterprises. So you have enterprises, you have software development boutiques. What other actors are on this scene? So not necessarily customers, but what other actors could influence your
Uh,
success or your um
I think it would be stakeholders who have intention of digitalization for their processes or automation. So it could be, for example, there's a team inside, for example, security commissions. They're looking for screening public companies and their financial tracking, right? So
okay.
they need a system for identifying whether your bonds are Sharia, non-Sharia compliant. So they need
Mhm.
to go through a lot of process, and literally the process of right now receiving documentation is using an attached Excel in an email.
So some regulatory entities, you have some
Yeah,
regulatory entities there, okay?
yeah. It can be
Okay.
regulatory. Yeah, but there's still, I would say, considered to be enterprise where there are at least more than 4 to 5 departments, cross-functional departments talking to each other to solve a similar problem.
But overall, this, because I'm thinking very big right now, just like
Yeah,
the big players in this scene that you need to be aware of.
yeah,
So you have the enterprises themselves, which are probably your target. You have these software development boutiques who serve enterprise vendors, who could also potentially be another target if you were to go to market. Um, or you could have the security commissions, regulatory entities that could, like, you could even go to market through them, like have them like enforce some sort of a, I don't know, checks and alignments. Um, do you see any other players in this space? I would say that even the actual um, mhm, the actual software developers and the word of mouth of the software developers, that could also be a way, because I'm thinking that, let's say, the software developers, they could see the value of just having some sort of assistant or some sort of a way to simplify this process for them and have it generate the requirements, and then they can do the build without all the hassle of everything else. So they could be even the ones
yeah. But
that,
the issue with software developers is not ever working with a company of size of 4 or 5 cross-functional teams. It's usually a company where they're working at, and that falls under software development teams. Yeah.
but
Yeah.
they could be, um, let's say, advocates or initiators. Like if
Yeah.
they, so they could be an important actor in this
That's
scene,
right.
right?
They can influence adoption because they can say, if we use the software, it saves us so much time. And then we don't have to talk to a business
Yeah,
analyst for clarifications,
exactly,
for example. Yeah.
exactly. So they could be your audience. Okay, so think about it this way: you are a start. Again, remove your solution from your mind. Remove everything like the analysis that you've done so far. Just bring the knowledge that you have. If you were to look at these potential stakeholders that you could, let's say, target, or you could kind of try to get on board, considering that you're a startup, and I'm guessing you're bootstrapped, your network is limited, and so on. Which one of these stakeholders do you think you should target that would be, let's say, the hardest one to win over? But when you have them, it's likely that the others will also become interested.
I would say I would go for software development boutiques
Okay.
because the idea is because I have like a strong influence being part of that
Mhm.
ecosystem. A lot of
Yeah,
people know me, so that could be considered to be a friend and family for adoption. And if I have two to
absolutely.
three big names, they
Yeah,
can start introducing us to enterprises where they work for,
makes
because that
sense.
requires a consent for their customers as well. So,
Makes sense.
yeah, and maybe an existing customer of mine who's an enterprise, we can introduce to them and consider to be a first mover with them to use their branding name on our customer
Mhm.
clientele to influence more sales. Yeah.
Well, we'll talk about that when we get there. But for now, okay, that makes sense. So, like, the choice makes sense. So, let's look at these software development boutiques who serve these enterprise vendors. And let's try to segment them because you're a startup. There are a gazillion software development boutiques out there in the world.
So I would think that document savviness is more towards customers who are European and North American. So region wise, I think that region is more sophisticated towards documentation and more document savvy. The way we can track is my idea was to see where the demand is more is by looking at the posted jobs for business analysts on the job board.
Yeah,
So, yeah,
but that is a good way to identify the geographies, but the geographies are not going to tell you the true reasons why such a company would want to employ such a product.
yeah. I think for
And
that
then
I
you
need
could
to.
say that it's because they want to save costs,
Mm.
maybe, but everyone wants to save costs. So let's look a little bit deeper. Let's try to find some stronger motivations because there are, I don't know, 100,000 such companies there, even European based, even if we narrow down to the European based. So how do you find the few ones that you're really going to be the perfect match for and that will resonate with your product because you're speaking about a problem that is really important for them, a need that is really important for them and is not important for all the others. So let's find those few that you can start with and start building success for. And then you can expand that. Nobody says you can't. But when you're a startup, you want to be very, very focused and very clear who you're serving, why, and why they should choose you over the others. Because, like you said, there are a ton of LLM solutions. And frankly, the first mover advantage is not enough. If the problem that you're solving is too generic, as soon as someone else comes, they will migrate. But if you are solving a really important need for them that nobody else is solving so well, then it's less likely for them to move somewhere else. And also, that somewhere else is less likely to be motivated to build for the problem that you're already solving.
Right.
Let's think of some very unique needs that these software development boutiques could have beyond saving money or getting these requirements. Like these are fundamentals, basics, everyone has them. Let's think of some more unique things.
Well, I would say the two primary factors would be saving time and cost. Well, because resources in Europe are way more
Yes,
expensive. So one is we can
true,
cut the cost using GPU compute for these agents. And the second
true.
one is even if you're outsourcing to a company in India, for example, there's always a barrier where communication in English or whatever the native language in German or Spanish is. So we can
But
be, yeah, go on.
saving time and cost It's the same thing. Saving time equals saving cost. And saving cost is something that everyone will do. It's
Yeah.
too big, it's too broad. So
Right.
let's think, what else? What other unique need that these types of businesses, that specifically these types of businesses would have in relation to the context of helping them gather customer needs? So for example, I'm going to make up an example. They could have very big clients that have very geographically dispersed teams. So they find it very difficult to align their calendars.
Right.
That could be a very unique and specific need
Yeah.
that is related to helping them gather customer needs as a problem space, but it's going to be uniquely applicable to some of them. And if you talk about this need and if you solve this in particular, they will be way more interested in your product than the next door product that does maybe something else or something generic, because this pain is killing them.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. High availability, 100%. So I'm just trying to not replicate my experience because I had the same
Yeah.
problem with Ken PLC in UK, where there were like 7 offices across the world.
Okay. So I'm going to repeat this. You don't have to go for all the fish. You have to know exactly what kind of fish you're targeting as a startup. Okay.
Right.
So when you find your fish, go and target that one. And then that will like you've creatively came up with the idea to look at geographies that have the most job openings for a business analyst. Great creative approach. In this way, you can also start looking specifically for those businesses that have this particular problem and where you fit perfectly. Do you see what I mean? And that's your entry point. Okay.
Right.
So let's think of some other potential needs like this, because then you're going to be able to assess them, maybe not perfectly in this session. Maybe you're going to take this at home and then see, okay, which one is the one that has the highest potential for me to succeed in? And then adapt your strategy to be more focused on that. Okay.
Right. The other thing I can think of is companies who are under a compliance. They need their documentation or any digital transformation to comply with that compliance as well.
Okay.
So any new process. So we want to be a company who can be compliant with their compliance so that they don't have to go through a change management.
Fair enough. But this is again an absolute requirement. Like nobody can onboard you and use you if you don't comply with their compliance.
No. So one thing is like, for example, GDPR, that's a generic compliance. Sometimes you're like ISO 27001 and you say, oh, if you change my process where it generates an invoice, it has to be in a specific format and it has to be approved from this person.
Then you have to choose the compliance that you're going to be building for and specifically, uniquely positioned to help companies that need that specific compliance requirement.
Yeah. So
because otherwise, like everyone needs compliance to be done. So it's just too high level. It doesn't speak to their unique need. Okay.
Yes.
So let's think of the compliance that you think is more niche and one that not everyone will be doing. What kind of compliance would you say?
Obviously, for its generic, most adopted is 27001. But then there are compliance for HIPAA and OSHA, for example, for health and safety. And then there's a compliance for example, Sarbanes-Oxley law for your financial reporting for Deloitte.
Okay.
So if these companies are audited by EY and they are a part of that compliance, all the documentation that you generate for that system has to comply with these compliances.
Okay. So let's just choose one, because ultimately you're not going to be solving for all of those compliances.
Yes,
you're going to be targeting those companies that need this compliance, and you do a really great job at helping them with this particular compliance.
Yeah.
Okay. So tell me one.
I would
And you
say
can think of others
ISO,
if you're inspired.
yeah, ISO 27001. And I would say one more would be SOX 404. SOX 404.
You get my gist. Choose only the ones that have this particular need and nothing else. Then you can expand and find other opportunities. But you have to be focused as a startup. Okay.
Understand.
Let's think of something else. Maybe
I
they have
think,
a high churn rate.
yeah,
Maybe you have a high employee churn rate and they want the solution that will help also inspire their employees to stay longer.
or the AI solutions are just taking away jobs more. So I'm just thinking, but should I like focus on software companies who have like multi-location that just shows internally they
Well,
have.
that's one option. But
Mm,
let's think of options, because the worst thing that you can do is make a choice and not think of other options. Even if you may think, okay, maybe it's not worth the exercise. Maybe it's not. Maybe you're still going to land on your first idea. But even beyond this session, spend time thinking about some more in-depth needs and choose something that is really niche. If you want to win as a startup and you don't have a lot of differentiation, you don't have an existing network. So there are only two ways, actually, in which you can really disrupt. One is you create your own market by solving a very, very unique, very niche, very specific need. And the other one is you battle on price, which you probably can't do. In order to win on price, you have to be at least half the price of the existing competitors. And
right.
AI is getting very commoditized already, and the battle on price is like already lowering prices. So
Yeah.
it's not a great option. And since you don't have the network to already take the market, but I mean, even if you do have the network, look how many products the likes of Google and the likes of Meta have sunsetted. Even if you do have the network, if you're not very clearly focused on a very valuable problem for a very valuable group of people or companies, then you're still under big threat. Okay? So
Understand.
even beyond this session, spend some time thinking of those very niche and unique needs, and don't worry about letting go of 90% of the market. Do let go of them, because that's going to make you more successful as a startup.
Understand.
Okay? So let's put one more thing. Maybe not with the employees. Maybe like, come on, give me something. You know the domain much better.
For
Maybe
example,
they have a high customer churn rate.
it's the only issue is it's very, very hard to find that information, right?
Well, you're gonna find it somehow, but
Mm,
like even through just asking and finding things, and then they're gonna find you once you become like known for solving that problem. But I think like they would care. Like it's a
yeah,
need that companies would care about if they have a high customer churn rate.
especially
And
with the customer engagement, right? If your engagement is not
yeah,
high, then you need a system like this to really step in and take your game to the next level.
okay. So this kind of goes beyond, I'm just an assistant. I'm collecting requirements. I'm collecting requirements in a way that your customers love me and want to stay and work with me. And therefore, your churn rate will go down.
Yeah,
That is my unique value that I bring to you.
understand.
I know we're not going to have time to validate or research or anything like that, but off the top of your head, if you were to think about, the possibilities, which one of these needs is likely to be the most powerful? We know there's a big market probably for all of them, so we don't worry about the market size. But which one of these is likely to be more powerful to motivate a company to either switch from an existing solution or a model that they use or to employ, like pick a product and actually employ it and pay for it? Which one of these needs to?
I believe the first one, being geographically diverse,
Okay,
allows, yeah, one guy doesn't have to chase so many people across continents. So I would say this is a high value. It's very time consuming. I've been in that shoe
okay.
as a Scrum Master for
But
my
you've
batch.
been in that. Okay, you've been in that shoe. But promise me that you're going to look to validate,
Yeah,
because my spidey sense says that this one is more likely to be a motivator for companies to buy your product, because this one, they're more likely to say, you know what, this is a problem for the business analyst to solve, and meet with all of
yeah,
them. And why would I employ a product? So think about it in a bit more depth. I know that this is the one that you're closest to emotionally,
yeah.
because you've been involved in it, and also you've seen more, so you perceive it as bigger. But do a bit of research after this session. For the sake of today, let's just go with this,
Yep.
just because it's important to also get you out of the of
A typical thinking
yeah of where you
path, right?
are, and get you thinking of different options, because this is how you come up with genuinely valuable and innovative solutions in the end.
Got
Okay.
it. Yep,
And
I agree.
personally, I think this, just knowing business and having done work with so many product leaders across the world, um, I think this one is likely to be more motivating for these boutiques to employ a product to solve it. Because this is not only saving them money, but also getting more money in their pocket, also saving them sales time. And like, so basically, if you can somehow charm their customers to not churn, then that will be like next level. Do you see what I mean? So look into it. For the sake of the session today, just trust me, but do look into it yourself.
Understand.
Okay. So let's see now, what kind of pain points or obstacles would these software development boutiques who have a high customer churn rate and they need a solution to help them retain their customers. What obstacles in retaining their customers could they have? What could be the reasons why their customers are churning that they could want help
The
with? Like,
fix, yeah. The
so let's
first one, the first one is obviously understanding of requirements, the accuracy of capture requirements.
you think?
Yeah, accuracy is a huge problem because
Okay.
sometimes when their customers are sharing information, BA documents in a certain way, sometimes they get the sign off, and then the customer realizes this doesn't work. So change of mind, wrong documentation can lead to something wrong delivered completely, and there's always a fight.
So they realize that it doesn't work because of how the customer asked for it, or because of how it was transcribed.
So the way it works is a lot of these enterprise users cannot perceive how a system is developed or how it will be working. Even with wireframing, they are not into like visualizing a functional system. So sometimes if they read the documentation, they will agree to their documentation and sign off. But when the actual features implemented in a Scrum and delivered, they will think, oh,
Okay.
this doesn't work right. So
Okay. So
yeah,
the requirements captured um, are not appropriately reflecting what the customer really had in mind,
yeah, expectation.
because the customer doesn't really understand how the systems work.
Yeah.
So now it's clear. So it's not about like the accuracy of the requirements. It's about that disconnect
Yes.
between what the requirements look like and what the customer has in their mind. So
Yes.
breaching that gap. Do
Yes.
you see how this is different?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So this
The
is one option.
the other one is availability of stakeholders at the same time for discussion. So if you're trying to bring three different department people together, it's always a pain. So
But
my
why do they
assumption is
have to be at the same time?
sometimes there's certain enterprise requirements which require, for example, I can tell you um, purchase order for example, there's a company called the Airstar in Malaysia, and
Hmm.
they provide infrastructure for underground submarine fiber from Malaysia to Indonesia. So they're like a vendor who purchases stuff from
Hmm.
China, but it fulfills for Telecom Malaysia. Okay.
So,
So they're so tell their customers Telecom Malaysia. So they have a specific requirement for a certain hardware. Now, when they do a purchase request, they know what hardware Telecom Malaysia is looking for. So
hmm.
that requires a business engineer to make a purchase request, which has to be approved by the head of department. But then the head of procurement will actually request for 2 to 3 quotations. So the business team is not the same as the procurement team. So they have to sit together that
Right.
how do you fulfill that requirement,
But
right?
are you sure that this can't be async?
The reason it cannot be async is because a lot of times these companies are going through a transformation because they're used to working in a specific way. For example, they will say, "Oh, I've decided I will send something to you on WhatsApp, literally, in an
But
enterprise."
but you're also trying to change the way that they work. So that will
Yep.
require transformation as well.
Yeah, so that's where they all have to come together because they're coming up with a system which transforms the way they work because their management has no idea.
I'm the reason I'm asking so many questions about this is
Yeah.
because it just kind of feels like it can maybe partially be solved
They,
right now by doing some sort of async. Like if there was like some sort of business analyst that would be doing a lot of async conversations, um, and then it could maybe be solved this way. I know that it would be harder for that business analyst, but the company, the business doesn't care about that. They care about they would care about whether the customers are unhappy because their requirements didn't get captured correctly, and they will be pissed off and they will be like, okay, this boutique is shit. I'm going to work with others. They will probably care, for example, um, if their employees, if the people who work with this boutique love it, if they feel good about it, if it makes them feel good about themselves, if it feeds their egos. And I know, like, it's not a nice thing to talk about, but it's real. People
yeah,
do function on egos. And especially, like, you're going to find this a lot in big corporations. And I know a lot of people are going to hate me for saying this out loud, but it's true.
yep.
And it's important to have the finesse to, you know, give them that type of treatment that would make them feel appreciated and important and respected. So isn't this like, I think that the async thing is it's not that it's not there, but it's probably something that companies will say, yeah, okay, fine, but like we're just hire a business analyst, right? And they can deal with this, and we don't care about this because the purchasing department of the company doesn't really like it's not in their targets to worry about how the business analyst feels, right?
Also, I'm not talking about business analyst feeling. Actually, my perspective is it should be async. Okay.
So
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 the
in
problem is when you ask for a meeting from one person, he will say, "Oh, can you also ask that department to come in because I've concerns how they will perceive." So they always try to get other people in part of the meeting where
and
all of their calendars are conflicting all the time. So a meeting
okay,
which could happen next day, it will happen next week because they want everybody together because they don't know
okay,
what will happen. Yeah. So my
okay.
idea is it
Well,
should
in
be
this
async and one
case,
by
I
one.
think I think what you're trying to say in this case is that like if we're linking it to the segment that we have, because everything has to be linking to the segment that we have. Why are
Yes.
their customers churning, right? So if we're linking it to that, what I'm hearing you say is that the customers are frustrated because their meetings keep getting delayed and they're not getting rapid action because the boutique can't sync with all of their stakeholders fast enough.
Yes.
See the way I've looked at it and why I've looked at it this way? Because this is directly relevant to why customers would churn, because this is the segment that we're looking at. We're not looking at everyone
Yeah.
here. It's looking at those, okay? So,
And also it serves this ego, because everybody who is in a decision-making
so that
position,
could
he
be a
wants to,
third one.
yeah,
So that could be a third thing. So let's formulate these.
yeah.
Right? Okay. So now let's put the one about ego. So they also churn because maybe they feel like the connection, the conversations are, I don't know, cold, transactional. They don't really care about what the company, like what their customers are doing. So maybe that person is not really, I don't know, for whatever reason, they feel not heard. Okay.
Yeah. Because it's a collective meeting, they're always thinking about what they will say, he will say, she will say, rather
Yeah.
than what you want to say. So one-on-one actually fixes that ego problem. Just say your heart out, what you want, and then let me drive into, reason in and come up with a solution for you.
So now we have 3 obstacles in that are preventing these SDBs to keep their customers from churning. Okay.
Yes.
So out of these obstacles, which one do you think? Again, remove yourself from whatever you've built so far, whatever you've done so far, and just think with your brain that knows the industry. Which one of these obstacles happens most frequently? And I will ask you again to validate afterwards, and don't just
Don't,
take your sense as gospel. Don't take my sense as gospel. But which one do you think happens more frequently? Which one do you think is really pissing off their clients the most?
I was at point number 2.
Okay. I will again insist that you validate, okay?
Mm.
Because I often, personally, I feel that this could be actually a really gold mine there if you really are able to hear their customers better than anyone else and
But
maintain their relationship with their customers better than anyone else. It's also most likely to keep their customers from churning, because most often people, I know even in businesses and so on, they want to make logical decisions, but oftentimes they make emotional decisions. So I genuinely think that one is something that you really don't want to ignore. So try to
okay.
validate it. A way to validate easily, for example, is just to put together a broken
Survey.
landing page
Okay.
with a button to buy and highlight these problems, highlight these things, run an ad campaign and see how many people are trying to buy. And then, I don't know, they land on a broken page or something. It doesn't matter, but ultimately see how many people are trying to buy from targeting those customers, those types of companies with that problem. And that's a good way to validate. Other ways to validate is you can use AIs, scrape, I don't know, different forums and so on. But I don't think people will talk on forums that much about
Yeah. Internal communication. Yeah.
these things. So I'm sure you know the industry better and you'll find creative ways to validate, but don't ignore this one. Okay?
Right.
All
Can you
right.
put a asterisk on this one?
Okay.
Just to read it focus later. Yeah.
Okay.
But basically a lot of dropout, because we based on my experience, I had customers who had complaints of slow delivery to move to us in
Mhm.
mid projects.
Yeah. No, but like you can get this by talking, for example, to others who had
Yep.
different experiences. But
Yes.
other people who have the same job as you, or
Yep.
other, or talk to business analysts. They will be so happy for someone to hear their pain.
Yeah,
And
I have
you
like
know,
a huge, I would say, WhatsApp, live coding groups and whatnot. So
yeah.
I am
So
huge
so
audience to
you
evaluate.
can talk to those people and really hear what is most frustrating for them. Okay.
Right?
Okay.
Yes.
So the idea is that now the solution will have to um, help SDBs. Okay. So now you have a very, very well-defined, unique proposition, value proposition that you can design your solution around and then design your communications around.
Right.
So that uniqueness that I asked you in the beginning starts to become a value that you own rather than just going. And again, get outside of your bubble as much as you can because there's a lot of stuff outside of your bubble that you don't know. And
Yes.
you want to tap into that by asking the right questions. Okay.
Yes.
So I don't think it's like there's any point going from here onwards because I'm sure you're gonna figure out how to build a solution. You're definitely very knowledgeable in this space. I just wanted to have this conversation and ask some questions that maybe you didn't ask in some ways that maybe you didn't um, use before
Yes.
and help you find some new angles to consider and go and do some research on before you invest too much and ultimately end up sadly failing because you didn't
Do else
yeah.
research. Yeah.
It's not about doing enough research. It's about doing the right
Is that
research.
right? That's correct. I
Like
think
you
that's the
can
right term.
validate something very, very quickly and easily if you know the right questions to ask. So it's not
I understand.
taking a lot of effort or because you're right, speed matters. So you should move fast, but just make sure you ask the right questions. Okay?
I agree. I agree.
Okay.
No, I think it's very, very helpful for me because sometimes when you're trying to solve your own problems, it could be very small compared to a larger market. So I think it's
Yes.
very, very important for me to have this discussion with you that really opens up my perspective on how to approach problem validation, right? I need to make sure that the problem I'm solving is much bigger. It should be niche, but big enough to solve. Otherwise, if it's too
Yeah,
small, I'm just
exactly.
solving a small problem for myself, which is not big enough. So
Yes.
that's not worth my effort. So I'm
But be
100%.
careful how
Yeah.
you balance the big enough because if you're a startup, the big enough should not be as big as it should be if you were Google.
Yes. Correct.
Okay.
100%. Yes.
If you're a startup, you need it to be big enough for you to make a dent in the market. And then you can expand from there, target some more segments and so on.
Yes. Totally
Okay.
got it. Do you have like a magic number you propose startups to target? Like, should it be like a market size of like 50 million? No, like VCs always come up with those numbers.
I
No.
No, there's no magic number because it's different for every model, for every product, like for every pricing.
Yeah.
There are startups that can successfully start and uh, get to some good ARR with 5 customers, and there are startups who need 100 customers.
Correct.
So it's about the intricacies of the problem that you're trying to solve, which you clearly know a lot about from your perspective, and you need to learn a little bit more from other people's perspective and validate some more ideas, come up with some more creative uh, problems outside of what you've been thinking of so far because of your own experience. And then you're going to land on something that is going to be gold.
Right. Understand.
Well, Raheel, it's been really, really good to have this chat with you. I loved going through your idea and finding new angles and kind of asking questions. And I really appreciate that you welcomed those questions rather than what most people do would be to defend what they've thought of. But it's always important to look at all sorts of perspectives. And I can see that you appreciate that. And it is absolutely the right way to go about it. What I wanted to ask is, what specifically do you think you've taken away from our conversation today that will help make a difference in what you are hoping to get when you entered this session? How will this make, I don't know, your idea and your thinking process better?
Yeah, so I learned a lot. So I think compared to an engineering approach versus a product manager approach, it's totally different. So what I learned was you have to have a very clear messaging on what you want to target. You need to have a clear segmentation, and you need to know the exact pain points that you want to fix for that segmentation of the problem. Because if you don't have a niche, you won't have the real unique selling proposition for the user to understand why they should choose you or somebody else. And plus, if your problem solving is too generic, anybody can come in with the same offerings, and then you're competing on cost. So you have to choose your battles, and you have to be identifying not the whole market, but identifying the clear customer base you're after. Focus on that and experiment and validate against that. And that's where the key takeaway is to go back to the drawing board, look at those problem and segmentations that we identified, and validate with the friends and families and the group of people I know who are in the same ecosystem, working as business analysts or enterprise solutions, and validate and get the answers from them. So that will really like solidify my approach versus just identifying that, oh, I'm trying to solve my problem, assuming everybody has the same problem. It's too generic as a solution.
Yeah, and ultimately, that's how you build your moat. This is
Yeah.
why what I'm doing is called MOATCRAFT, because that's what you need to do to build your moat, to really identify those deeper reasons why someone should choose your product over all the other AI assistants in the market. So it's been really
Right.
exciting. And I think a lot of people will find it really insightful because everyone is trying to build AI agents now, and choosing how to build an AI agent in the right way and choosing how to communicate about it and to make it meaningful for that specific group of people that you're building it for is so, so important. And I'm really, really happy that this is what you've taken away from today. So thank you again for participating in this open session to share all of this with everyone. And yeah, being brave and being collaborative and open with this.
Yeah, I'm really happy that I had this session in the learning, because it's really uh, important for founders to actually open up their eyes and explore different segments of what they might be ignoring completely. So having people like me who's on advisory on how to approach different solutions and products in a way really opens up our mind to more exploration and basically validation. So you have to be a problem solver. You should have to create something which is a painkiller, not a vitamin. Yeah, you should not be an optional. It should be mandatory for adoption. And that's where the market is.
Absolutely. And this is how you find what you need to be a painkiller for. Very, very high precision. So
Exactly.
I look forward to see what you're going to do with this,
Yeah.
where this is going to go. Keep me in the loop
Yep.
and good luck. And yeah, again, thank you for joining us.
Anirudh, I appreciate your time and effort in going through my idea, validating it, helping me segmentation, and knowing my customer. Know the customer is the same in
Yeah.
that everybody says, but you
Yeah.
have to ask the right questions, and that's where I think the value of this session comes in. So really understanding our
Amazing.
customer base and going after them.
That's it for today's MOATCRAFT session. Remember, code is getting commoditized, but strategy is real leverage for you. With your skills, you can turn this into gold. So if you're serious about building things that last, that make a difference, and that turn you into a success, hit subscribe and stick around for more ways to sharpen your thinking before you even write your first line of code. This will make the real difference in what you build. And this is how you will get a seat at the decision-making table when you're in larger companies as well. So we'll see you in the next session.